Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana Bucci. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it. Hey, and welcome back to Season 2 of The Shift Show, episode number 2. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about love bombing because this is something that narcissists obviously do. It's part of the cycle of abuse. So I'll briefly explain the cycle. It's love bomb, devalue, discard. It's a very simplified version of it. Honestly, I don't think we need to overcomplicate it any more than it needs to be overcomplicated because the more steps we add to the cycle, the more confused we can get. But, if that resonates with you, that is fine. But here, I like to simplify things as much as possible because narcissistic abuse is such a mindfuck that the simpler it is when you learn about it, the easier it is to understand. And when it's easier to understand, it's easier for you to actually do your inner work and your healing work and to accept what's going on, right? Because the more we go into like every other single possible thing with the cycle of abuse, the more we can waste so much time on what doesn't matter, which is the narcissist. Like, it just really does not matter what they're doing at the end of the day. What matters more is that you are on your healing journey. You are processing your emotions and you're building up your self-esteem and becoming narcissist proof, right? This is obviously something that takes baby steps, one day at a time. And you have to come to a point where you've accepted the narcissist for exactly who they are in order to be able to do this. And so the little rant about overcomplicating things out of the way, let's talk about that cycle. So love bomb, devalue, and discard. Love bombing is basically what they do to gain your trust. So this is when they're nice to you. This is when they start making sense. This is when, they might pretend they're going to change or apologize or whatever. And then devalue is when all the BS happens. That's when all the abuse happens, the manipulation tactics, all the things, except what's important to realize is that's also happening in the love bomb stage. It's just that the love bombing stage feels good and the devaluing stage does not feel good. And so your nervous system is going to react differently to both. So that's what's important to keep in mind. And after the devalue stage, sometimes they go to discard, sometimes they go back to love bomb, sometimes you're in a very long devalue. So it doesn't matter what the situation is. All you need to realize is that this is going to continue over and over and over again. It's been the pattern the whole time. It's not a pattern that's going to change anytime soon because if someone's going to change, they need to decide to do that on their own and they need to want to do that. And narcissists don't want to change. They don't think anything is wrong with them. And so basically the discard stage is when you're no longer useful to the narcissist. They can't get supply out of you, or they have found another source of supply that's giving them higher quality supply. And, they don't care about getting supply from you anymore. And this doesn't happen all the time, especially if it's like a narcissistic parent. Sometimes they don't discard you in the same way that like a romantic partner would, but they do discard in other ways. It can be very subtle discards, and then they go right back into like love bomb when they need something. So just very important to have a basic understanding of the cycle of abuse. And so now we're going to dig into love bombing since now we know what the cycle is. So usually when things are going well with the narcissistic abuse in your life, you tend to believe that like, okay, this is great and maybe they changed and, that was just a little blip, whatever happened in that devalue discard stage. And this is what I've been waiting for, like you've been really hoping for that love bomb stage that entire time that you've been through the devalue and or the discard. And you start to actually believe that, yeah, they have changed. This is who this person really is. And this is how I will continue to expect them to behave moving forward. And when we are in that trauma bond and we're, kind of in that phase where we value what the narcissist has to say and we don't realize what's actually happening yet. That's what we tend to think. And we don't realize that this is actually one gigantic manipulation tactic. What's really happening when things are going well is that the narcissist is love bombing you, and they're doing this on purpose. It is calculated, and the purpose of it is to gain your trust again, because this happens after they devalue and or discard you. Okay? And the initial love bombing stage in like a romantic relationship, of course, they need to do that initially in order to hook you in, because if they introduce themselves to you as the piece of shit that they are, you would not give them the time of day. You'd be like, okay, that's good to know. I will be not talking to you, right? But they need to be charismatic. They need to be likable, because you are not going to trust somebody you don't like. So that's the whole purpose of love bombing. Obviously, if you're born to a narcissistic parent or adopted by one, or you have a narcissistic caregiver, whatever your situation is, they don't really need to go through that initial love bombing stage because you're there already. You know, like you don't get to choose your parents, you don't get to choose your caregivers, you just end up there. And they won't really have to do that initial grand gesture that like a romantic partner would have to do. You're just being conditioned from day one, from, you know, before you're even born, realistically speaking. And so if you're in a dynamic with a narcissistic parent and you're an adult child, love bombing will look a lot different. So it can look like, you know, they are being reasonable for once, the narcissistic parent. They are making promises to take care of the grandkids or to go on that family vacation and be one big happy family and put all the past in the past and be happy again and everything's going to be great. You know, they might, you know, it really can look different for different people. They might say they're going to like buy you a house or something. Anything that you want to hear is love bombing at the end of the day. Okay? And they only do it when they feel like they need to do it because you are not giving them supply. Okay? And it's disgusting, obviously. Like, it's just so messed up. It's so diabolical, and it can be shocking to realize it, but you have to be realistic here that they're not going to explain to you what their manipulation tactics are as they're doing them, right? Because you're dealing with a manipulative person. No con artist is going to share their secrets on how they scam people with whatever they're scamming people with, because then the scam's not going to work. So narcissists function in the same way. And this nice act that they put on, it's short-lived, and it really only lasts until they are satisfied that you have trusted them again. Okay? They can tell when you have reinvested your trust in them and you're hooked back in. Once they're satisfied of all of this, that's when the devaluation, the gaslighting, the abuse, the manipulation tactics, the bullshit, the crazy making behavior starts to happen all over again. And that's because they enjoy seeing you in a bamboozled state, trying to make things work out or whatever. They just want any kind of attention. They want to feel relevant. And for whatever reason, their brains function like this. That is what they value. Your emotional reaction. Narcissistic supply. They want to suck you dry of your energy. And this just keeps happening over and over and over again. And they're not going to change that pattern. And this is a very predictable pattern. And this is what you can expect to continue happening over and over and over again. There is no parallel universe where they're going to permanently change. That mask is going to come off. They will try very hard. They might stay in that love bombing stage for a very long time in order to gain your trust. They might make some really great points. They might incorporate nuggets of truth in whatever they're saying in order to continue confusing you. But what you have to be hyper aware of and what you have to be very mindful of is that if you do decide to, respond to their love bombing, you are actually giving them supply, right? Because when you're favorably responding to it, You're eating up all of their compliments. You are so happy that they're finally behaving like a normal, rational human being that you keep projecting onto them and hoping that they will be. And they're doing that because they know that's what you want. And they'll do it for an extended period of time if you are continuing to communicate with them and they think that there's hope that you will drink the Kool-Aid and that you will start trusting them again. Because as soon as you do, that's when the devaluation starts to happen. And it can be really subtle at first. It really just depends on your dynamic. It depends how long you've been kind of, having those boundaries with them, but giving them supply here and there just to sort of shut them up and keep the peace. But at the end of the day, that's actually working against you when you give them supply in that way. The goal is to give them zero supply, no emotion, as few words as possible. And when you use more words and when you have emotion in your interactions with them, they are draining you of that, whether you like it or not. So that's what's happening. And they use your emotions against you, right? So they do this on purpose. They induce the happy feelings within you during love bombing stages so that you gain that trust. And then they really just start shattering that all down during the devalue and or discard stage. And it just keeps happening over and over and over again. So the sooner that you accept that this dynamic is how it's always going to be, the sooner you will stop supplying the narcissist with that emotional reaction, with that engagement that they're seeking, with that attention, those resources, whatever supply is to them, whatever they are trying to extract from you, you will be able to stop doing that once you reach that point of acceptance that this is never going to end and you realize how tired you are. Because it is exhausting. This is exactly why it's so exhausting to deal with a narcissist, because they're literally vacuuming out your energy, right? And the sooner that you stop supplying the narcissist, the sooner you actually start to focus on your healing journey. And I know it sucks that you have to go on this whole healing journey because you're not the one who traumatized yourself, but you can't wait around and expect the narcissist to fix all of that for you because they are committed to not doing anything like that to help you in any way, shape, or form. They're committed to continuing to abuse and manipulate you so they can continue gaining supply. They don't care how you feel. As long as however you feel is resulting in them getting supply from you, that's all that matters to them. So once you start focusing on your healing journey, your inner work, your inner emotional world, the sooner you will actually start being able to live life on your own terms without caring what the narcissist thinks or what they have to say. Because at the end of the day, we have a limited amount of time on this planet. Life is short, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a year from now, 10 years from now. Nothing's guaranteed, And I'm not trying to be morbid, but you don't know what the next day brings. So with a narcissist, you do know what the next day brings. Chaos, nonsense, abuse, more digs at your self-esteem, more damage to your mental health, more damage to your emotional health. And, you don't have to deal with this shit, right? And it's not an overnight process, okay? But what you have to understand is that life really is too short for the narcissist nonsense because what they're after is supply. And that's just, it's not normal. It's not like a priority thing for normal people to, get their jollies from making people react to their antics and destroying their sense of self. There's more to life than dealing with someone who's purposely doing that. And you deserve to prioritize the most important relationship that you will ever have. And that is the relationship you have with yourself. Okay? No other relationship is going to be more important than how you have your relationship with yourself. That's why it's so important to do that inner work, because the more you connect to yourself and your own inner emotional world, the more you will understand if someone's manipulating you. You're going to become the human bullshit detector. If someone's manipulating you, you will know if you are in touch with your emotions and how your emotions work, what messages those emotions are giving you. You will know because you will have done the work, and you will be much more able to recognize manipulation tactics as they're happening, right? You'll be able to cut that off right away instead of wasting more of your time, your precious time on this planet, time that's not guaranteed, on people who are committed to destroying you. So I hope that this episode has been helpful. That's really all I wanted to say today, that doing you, focusing on you, is your best defense against a narcissist. It's so easy to fall for their love bombing when it's happening, because all that false hope that's repressed is kind of being validated that, okay, yeah, things are going to be great. But that's how the emotional manipulation aspect of narcissistic abuse works. So the more you're aware of that, the better. And just another quick announcement, if you are on your healing journey and you want to do that inner work in a community setting, I have a brand new community membership filled with amazing survivors of narcissistic abuse who are on their healing journeys, connecting with each other, accessing all the resources that I've provided on there. I've created some amazing courses, documents, worksheets, workbooks. There's also one-on-one support available for Tier 2. And this is just going to be the only way to work with me moving forward. And, I will have more offerings in the future, but it's going to very probably include the membership because all of the learning content is in there. And it's so amazing to have a support community when you are healing from narcissistic abuse, because it's such an isolating journey. Most people don't understand this type of abuse. Even therapists don't really understand this type of abuse, and they don't really validate it. A lot of the times they shame you for even using the word narcissist when, you actually know more than they do, because, it's just not in the curriculum apparently. And it's very, very obvious to know if you're dealing with a narcissist or not once you know what to look out for. Like, you don't need a degree for that at all. There's a lot of therapists out there with that sort of God complex. They're not all like that. There are some amazing unicorn therapists out there, but, a lot of survivors have had these horror story situations with what they think is supposed to be the way to heal. And sure enough, no tools happen in therapy, no real directions on how to increase your self-esteem happens. It's just kind of like, okay, so just do the thing. And it's like, okay, how? Right? So the resources that I have created and included in the membership, it's all the direction that you will possibly need, consolidated all in one spot. And, if you do Tier 2, there are options for one-on-one support as well. Super affordable as well. So, it starts at only $22 per month for Tier 1. And if you would like more information, check out my website, letsgetyourshiftogether.com/community. I've included the link in the description here as well, so that you can easily click on it if you're on, desktop computer or mobile device. And you can learn more information and get signed up. As soon as you sign up, you can get immediate access to all the content, and you can RSVP to all of the upcoming live events. They happen regularly, almost on a weekly basis, and there's at least 2 to 3 events per month for either tier. So it's an awesome space. It's so powerful. It's so amazing. People are making such awesome breakthroughs and shifts, and it's just the most amazing support community I could have ever imagined. This is the support community I wished existed while I was starting out my healing journey. And I'm super, super excited and, privileged to be able to provide this as a service for survivors. So again, the link is in the description, or, letsgetyourshiftogether.com/community for more information. I hope to see you there. That's all for today's episode. See you next week.